For these last few seasons, when we've thought about Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines on offense, we've thought about bully ball, a road grading offensive line, and some great running backs, physical, good old-fashioned Big Ten football running the ball. But are the Wolverines becoming a pass-leaning offense with the great talent of JJ McCarthy?
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
Disclaimer, this video is about football, on the field football. Now that we've gotten past that, let's dive into this game. When we think about Michigan, it's about the line of scrimmage. But let's look at the last few games. A couple of weeks back against Michigan State, JJ McCarthy threw the ball 27 times and he went out after the third quarter. If he stays into the fourth quarter and that offense is still operating at a normal clip and a normal rate, normal plate calling, that kind of thing, he throws the ball maybe into the mid-30s in terms of pass attempts. You fast forward to this Saturday night and the Purdue Boilermakers, and here's JJ McCarthy's stat line. 24 of 37 pass attempts, 335 yards through the air. Now, he didn't throw a passing touchdown in this game. But this offense is now taking what the defense is giving them. The last 2 weeks, I think Michigan State and I think Purdue have said, you know what, we're going to try to stop this run game. We're going to try to be better in the trenches. Michigan over these past few seasons, that's where they've dominated. That's where they've won the football game. Now Michigan says, okay, you want to do that? We're going to throw the football in the air with one of the very best and most talented quarterbacks in all of college football. That's right, I've seen Caleb Williams play, Michael Penix play, Bo Nix play, some of the better quarterbacks in college football, and the throws that JJ McCarthy makes, and now the numbers. Okay, before it would say, well, they're running the football a lot more, maybe JJ McCarthy doesn't have the numbers. Now his numbers, now that Michigan is throwing the ball a little bit more, and you're really seeing that pass game evolve within Sherrone Moore's offense, JJ McCarthy, statistically, is one of the very best quarterbacks in all of college football. Who knows if that'll still stand after this Caleb Williams and Michael Penix type of performance, but he's still going to be up there. Maybe not necessarily maybe in the top 2 or 3 or anything like that, but he's definitely going to be in that top group statistically of quarterbacks in all of college football. Okay, it's not a bad thing right now that maybe Michigan isn't running the ball for 200 and 250 a game like they did before. This is just an offense that continues to evolve. This is an offense is taking advantage. That is taking advantage of the best player on their football team, and that's JJ McCarthy. They are putting the ball into his hands and letting him dictate what happens in this football game. They realize the talent, I think, right now of JJ McCarthy. And they know, say, once we get to Penn State, once we get to Ohio State, this is where JJ can really let her loose and maybe we can win a football game that way. Remember kind of what happened in that Ohio State game last season where JJ really got it going throwing the football. That was kind of a peek inside the window, so to speak. Now I think the window is kind of fully open there for JJ McCarthy, this offense throwing the football right now. So they've adjusted. They've become more balanced on the offensive side of the football, and that is a great thing. That always worried me a little bit maybe last year where maybe they just run, and JJ McCarthy doesn't throw the ball for more than 20 times throughout the majority of these football games, and then you get to some of these big games. Now, he played pretty well against Ohio State last year. TCU kind of threw a couple of interceptions, but now I think that JJ is putting the ball into the air a little bit more. That's only going to help them down the road. It's going to help them be more balanced now, and it's going to help them when they get to Penn State, when they get to Ohio State, because I'm very curious to see what happens now. Like these last 2 weeks, Michigan State and Purdue did pretty well defending the run, right? Something that's been very successful at Michigan over these last few seasons. Now you get Penn State. Now, what did they do defensively? Is this a team, we know Manny Diaz is very aggressive as a defensive coordinator. Does he come off the edge and try to get JJ McCarthy kind of running around? We know JJ's mobile. We know he can kind of deal with that. But is this a defensive game plan where it's more attacking the quarterback and at trying to slow down the pass game, and then we'll see what happens in the run game? We know, Penn State knows, especially going back to last season, we know what happens when that happens, when maybe teams might play more towards the pass and Michigan can line up at the line of scrimmage and run it down your throat. I think this makes this Michigan offense even more dangerous, more balanced. It's going to be very scary for some of these teams to deal with. But now, so the other point I want to make in this video about Michigan. Okay, it's nice to see, right? They played about into the middle of the fourth quarter here. Okay, we haven't seen a lot of fourth quarters with the JJ McCarthys, the Blake Corums, the Roman Wilsons, and some of the better players here on this Michigan football team. It's good to see that. But this isn't, like I said, this is not a team that has, or this is a team that has not played in the fourth quarter a ton. They have steamrolled every single one of their opponents. What's going to happen next week when they play Penn State? And Penn State's a good team. Okay, are they a great team? Are they an elite team like Michigan? I don't think so quite yet. But you got to think Penn State at some point in that game is going to punch Michigan in the mouth. And Michigan's going to get punched in the mouth for the very first time. They're that boxer right now. They're landing punches. They're growing that confidence, but they're blocking. They haven't gotten their face touched all season long. What's going to happen when an opponent lands that first punch? How are they going to react? I think they're going to react well, but it still remains to be seen. I'm very curious considering just how dominant the Wolverines have been this season. They really haven't faced a challenge. Their biggest adversity, their biggest challenge so far this season was getting down 7-0 to Rutgers in their first conference game. When Gavin Wimsatt, Christian Dremel, that slant route, took it to the house. That's been their biggest thing to overcome. It's going to be a pretty big jump, I think, in terms of maybe things to overcome when they play Penn State. I still think Michigan is the better football team, but you got to think there are going to be some challenges, especially facing off with that aggressive and really nasty Penn State defense. When you look at this thing from a Purdue standpoint, crumple it up, throw it in the trash. I think that's what happened with Minnesota. That's what happened with Nebraska. That's what happened Michigan State. That's what happened with a lot of these teams. You can't look at the film and say we should have done all of these things better. Michigan is just a better football team right now. That's the fact of the matter at a lot of these positions, right? That's just how dominant they've been this season. So Ryan Walters, I don't think you can look at this film, and he might be looking at this film for other reasons based on what he said in his radio interview on his radio show this week. I haven't dived into that, however you say that word, on this channel, this week. But man, that's a tough series of words and sentences to get through. But definitely going to cover that, I think, here in the next week. Very interested to hear what he had to say about all those comments about everything going on within this Michigan program. But, Purdue, I think there's little positives that you can take throughout this game. You finished the first half strong. There was a period late second quarter, early third quarter, somewhere in the middle there that Michigan could have blown this thing off. They could have scored 20 points, 30 points. It could have been something like that going into halftime. But they were able to kind of keep this at a 2-possession game for a little bit there. So you got to take solace in that. But the talent was eventually gonna kind of win out. Michigan just made a brief stop along the Purdue train track, so to speak, a quick stop along the journey, and then eventually they moved on to their next destination, which was a victory, of course, in this football game. But you can't dwell on this too much, Purdue. You can't. It's Michigan. They are who they are. Off the field stuff over here, on the field stuff over here. This is still a Michigan team that's going to be great. This is still a Michigan team that's still going to be in the hunt. I want to hear what you guys think of this matchup. All things Michigan and Purdue, leave it in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.